Hi everyone, I am Jenny, and in this video I'm showing you 5 affordable watches starting from $200 to a maximum of $4,000 that are exceptionally well respected amongst watch collectors. A big thing that I hear a lot of from people is that apparently whenever one goes for a more affordable watch, they are sooner or later will inevitably have a lot of issues with the watch, or they break down rather quickly. And so you get a lot of watch collectors who therefore advise against those kinds of watches because you end up spending the money anyways, but don't get much out of it. And there's also a lot of those people who are, convinced that the only way to end up with a decent watch is to spend at least a couple of $1,000s on it. And that's, equally absurd. But with most extremes in this world, we find the truth somewhere in the middle. And so that is why in this video, I'm showing you the 5 watches from different price categories that bring an exceptionally high quality for their price. And on top, they are very well respected within the watch community. The first of the 5 watches is the Seagull 1963, and that one is not only so popular because it is one of the most affordable chronographs with a mechanical hand-wound column wheel movement, but it's also rather iconic given its historical importance. Additionally, given its looks and all the color combinations available, the Seagull is a watch that is very wearable on a daily basis. But let's see which wrist sizes would get the most out of this watch. So the good news is that the Seagull is available in 2 sizes. You can either get a 38mm or a 40mm diameter. This means that there's a Seagull for pretty much everyone out there. I would say that with a lug-to-lug of 46mm or 47 for the 40mm diameter, that was a mouthful, it probably looks best on wrists between 155 to 180mm in circumference to, balance out the proportions of the watch. But I would also like to quickly mention the other things that you should be aware of. First of all, this one isn't really water resistant, so washing your hands is okay, but please do not go swimming with it. Secondly, the movement itself, though it is a solid and beautiful one, it only has a power reserve of 36 hours, and given that this is a hand-wound movement, you might find yourself winding the watch more often than you think or perhaps like. And lastly, there is also a sapphire crystal variant out there. So in my case, no pun intended, my acrylic crystal just popped off the other day, so I would recommend going for a sapphire crystal on top. It's not the end of the world. I can pop it back in, but I'd rather not have to do it in the first place. Right, the second watch of this list is the Tudor Black Bay Heritage. Within the last couple of years, Tudor really has stepped up their game, and they have become more and more popular ever since. I know that some people might have thrown around things like it's the poor man's Rolex, but I would say that those things are long gone if they ever were true in the first place. And Tudor has established themselves as an independent watchmaker. Well, independent in the sense of not that close to Rolex anymore. And I'm totally on board with the Tudor fangirls and boys. I'm one myself. Tudor watches are known for providing killer watches at a reasonable price point that are incredibly well designed and finished, plus the added bonus of their robustness and the newly added array of in-house movements. And that is also where we find the first of its biggest strengths, the in-house movements from Tudor. Within this price range, those things are rather hard to find, and on top of that, you also get a 5 instead of 2-year warranty from Tudor, though you could actually, I would say, get away with 10 years without service, without, running into trouble with your watch. Additionally, you also get really robust watches with a water resistance of 200 meter. So you could not only, wash your hands with it, but also go diving with it if you wish to do so. I'd also say that this one can easily transition into more formal wear, given its more, vintage inspired look. And on that note, I want to take the time and thank the sponsor of today's video, which is Chronext. Chronext is an international online pre-owned watch retailer with over 32 brands and 800 models, including some really nice Tudor Black Bays, providing pickup locations and lounges all over the world for you, making it a perfect place, not only for people who, just started with watches, but also seasoned collectors and enthusiasts. And right now on Chronext.com, you can use my promo code Jenny when purchasing from Chronext to get an extra discount on top of it, saving a bit of that moolah for Christmas. And just so you know, there's no financial kickback for me, but you will get to save money on your next purchase. I have bought through Chronext before. I got my Rolex Yachtmaster 37, the White Walker, from them, and I can absolutely recommend Chronext if you want fair prices and, more importantly, a peace of mind when shopping for watches online. So that is my code Jenny on Chronext.com to save money on your next purchase. Okay, let's get back to the Tudor. Overall, Tudor is taking one of the first places when it comes to the most popular watch brands within the up to, say, 5K price range. And I know from a lot of people who, though they own a Patek, they rather wear their Tudor on a day-to-day basis. But let's see which wrist size would work best for the Black Bay. And at this point, I have to warn the IBWC. Though its diameter of 41mm sounds still doable for many, it's the lug-to-lug of 50mm and the thickness of 30mm that make this watch rather big. That's why I would recommend this one for, larger wrists. So it is you that is wearing the watch and not the other way around. And as I did with the Seagull, I would also like to mention a few things about the Black Bay you should be aware of before buying it. First of all, its bezel is made from aluminium, which on the one hand looks fantastic with its matte surface, but is on the other hand easier to scratch. Nothing too dramatic, of course, but perhaps something you should know. And secondly, with so many Tudor bracelets, you get the 4 rivets on the side, which are also not everyone's cup of tea. I mean, Seiko is more or less a no-brainer when it comes to watches, as you get a lot of watches from them which deliver exactly what they promise. There are also plenty of other watch brands who source Seiko movements to use in their own watches, and lots of Seiko watches start out at about give or take $100, so that is a great thing too. But the watch I want to talk about today is the Seiko 5 Sports, and one of its biggest strengths is definitely its robustness and daily wearability, if that's even a word. It's one of these watches you can wear for a decade and it's still going strong without having it checked, and even if you have to get it checked, it's rather inexpensive because it's Seiko, and Seiko movements are so easily serviceable for most watchmakers. And on top of that, you also have plenty of colors and variations to choose from, so there is something out there for everyone. The one I have here has this very beautiful sunburst, and to be honest, it can totally keep up with much more expensive watches. Oh, and on a side note, for all the do-it-yourselfers out there, I'm not one myself, but if you want to get into watch modding, this watch is the perfect place to start. With a diameter of 42.5mm, this watch definitely sits on the larger side, but with a lug-to-lug of 46mm, it still fits rather compact on your wrist. So as you can see, even smaller wrists like mine can get away with it. Just be aware of the thickness. As you can see, the 13.4mm, they do really show. And that's also what brings me to the points you should be aware of. Since this one is rather bulky given its proportions, it doesn't transition very well into more formal wear in my opinion. There's also the fact that though the movement is robust, a deviation of 15 to 20 seconds per day is rather the norm, so you would either have to find a watchmaker who adjusts it for you, or you just, have to live with that. I have already reviewed this watch on my channel, and if you want to see that video, you can check it out in the link in the description box down below. But I just could not have this one on the list. It's the Tissot Gentleman Powermatic, of course. It is, in my opinion, one of the best automatic Swiss watches available below the $1,000 price range, and a true contender for, the one watch collection at that price point. And I mean, you can see it for yourself. Its finishing is really great, and it is also one of the very few watches below the $1,000 who do not have to hide when it comes to ultra macro shots. Size-wise, it's right in between a very sweet spot, but I will get to that in a second. So like I've mentioned, this one really is one of those all-round watches, and it's mainly down to the following 3 things. First, due to its design, it works well in all kinds of situations. It can look sporty, it can look elegant, but also very casual because it looks great on either a steel bracelet or on a leather strap. Secondly, this one is up to 100-meter water resistant, so it's not only looking good, but it is also capable of handling all sorts of activities without you having to worry about it too much. And lastly, the movement is not only very accurate with its deviation of only 5 seconds per day, it also has a power reserve of 80 hours, which is truly incredible. I'm a big fan of that because you can have it laying around for a couple of days without having to set it again when you pick it up. And as a bonus, you can also see it working through the case back. Anyways, I'm sure you now want to know who's going to wear this watch best, and well, let me tell you that ideally you'd have to have average to slightly larger wrists, since its lug-to-lug is 48mm with a diameter of 40, but since it's only 11.5mm thick, you can also get away with it with slightly smaller wrists too, I would say. Perhaps the only downside to this entire watch is probably its bracelet. Not that it is anything too dramatic, this one stands out simply because the rest of the watch is so great and the bracelet really isn't. But I'm not saying it's a bad bracelet, anyways, but it is, just not as well made as you would expect it, given the high expectations one has when looking at the dial and the case, I suppose. It all comes down to managing your expectations when it comes to this watch and its bracelet. Anyways, I'm rambling on here. Like I've mentioned, you could always, just switch it out for something nice like a leather strap and all is well again. Alrighty, we are now at the last watch for this video, and perhaps some of you might know this one from my previous videos. It's the NOMOS Club Neomatik in 37mm. And why this one is so popular with watch collectors, including myself, is rather easy to explain. NOMOS manufactures their watches in Glashütte, which is a little German village known worldwide for its expertise in watchmaking. They showcase German craftsmanship in beautiful but minimalistic cases, and their movements exhibit the iconic Glashütte striping the place is so well known for. And I mean, come on. Luckily, this one has a see-through case back, and it's always a showstopper when you flip a watch from Glashütte upside down. But I mean, it wouldn't be NOMOS if the dial wasn't equally as exciting. Though I can understand that Bauhaus isn't for everyone, I am sure we can all still appreciate and respect the beautiful simplicity of the dial, which results in a very easily legible dial as well. But what I think might even be cooler is the fact that this one, though it looks, perhaps a bit delicate for some, it is water resistant up to 200 meters, which not only works for swimming, but also diving. So technically this could be a dive watch. So with all this covered, let's have a look at who's able to pull this one off the best. As I have mentioned, the diameter is 37mm, which sounds rather small, but it is a common thing with NOMOS watches that their lugs are rather long, and so we end up with a lug to lug of 48mm on this watch, which makes it more difficult to wear comfortable for smaller wrists. I mean, you can see right here on my wrist that it is just on the edge of being too big. So I would say that, as always, wear whatever you like, but it would probably look best on wrists above I want to say 170mm circumference. Anyways, it remains to be a watch that can be worn to pretty much everything and with everything. Thanks to its look, it's one of these, appreciative not type of reaction watches that are just very difficult to dislike, I think. But yeah, the one thing to be aware of before buying this is the slightly off proportions given the lug length, but I suppose it comes down to your wrist size. But other than that, this watch is as simple as it is stunning, and I just love it. It's my watch. And here we have it, 5 affordable watches within a 200 to 4,000 price range that are very well respected among the watch collector community worldwide. But now it is your turn. Let me know in the comments down below what think of this list and which watch you would like to add to it. Again, I would like to thank Connex for sponsoring this video and supporting the channel. As always, if you have enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. It really helps out the channel. And if you want to see more videos like this one, you can subscribe to my channel, and then I will see you in my next one. Bye!